welcome to Stop 8 on our tour. We're standing at Church and Carleton Streets in front of Maple Leaf Gardens, once the home of the Toronto Maple Leafs, one of the original 6 teams in the National Hockey League. Why have we chosen this stop? Because this site is indicative of Toronto's fans' love affair with sports and athletic heroes. It's also indicative of the importance of sports to large cities like Toronto and other cities around the globe. It also demonstrates the importance of sports films, which, like the city, provide a perfect medium for tracing and depicting the rapid pace and transition of cities and societies in the modern age. A city has to be able to support a major league team, and part of a city's ability to support a team is calculated on the basis of TPI and API. TPI is the total personal income of that city, which is the sum of all the money earned annually by all residents in that area, in correspondence to average ticket prices. API is the available personal income, which is the TPI less the cost of supporting the team. For example, the cost of supporting an NHL team today is about $37.6 billion. If the API is positive, then the city can support the franchise. If it's negative, then the team has to go somewhere else. So to borrow the famous line from Field of Dreams, if you build it and they can afford it, they will come. Of course, we have to satisfy the requirements of the league in that we can provide a brand new sports facility or satisfactorily upgrade an old arena to host the new games according to the league's various requirements for size, safety, location, and so on. But we also have to have a team in the city that will further the league's plans for geographic expansion. And given the availability of land and the cost of real estate in a big city, that can also be a real challenge. Maple Leaf Gardens is considered one of the great cathedrals of ice hockey in Canada, home to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who won the Stanley Cup, the holy grail of hockey, 11 times here. The team had been playing in the Arena Gardens on Mutual Street, just one street east and a few blocks south of here. And that was built in 1912 with a capacity for 7,500 for ice hockey. But by 1930, Leafs managing director Conn Smythe decided the arena was too small, and he wanted to build a larger, new arena and one that was more impressive. After considering various sites, this one at the corner of Carleton and Church was purchased from the T. Eaton Company, which owned the big department store, for $350,000. That's $5.41 million in 2016 dollars, a price said to be $150,000 below market value in those days. The new arena was to have 12,473 seats, which expanded to a capacity of 14,550 with standing room. Construction began at midnight on June 1st, 1931. In what is to this day considered to be a remarkable accomplishment, the Gardens was constructed in 5 months and 2 weeks at a cost of $1.5 million. That's $23.2 million in 2016 dollars. This was also the site of the first NHL unofficial and official All-Star Hockey Games, as well as Game 2 of the famous Summit Series between Team Canada and the USSR in 1972. Team Canada won that game, by the way, 4-1. But it wasn't all about hockey. Maple Leaf Gardens early on was a premier venue for political rallies, wartime fundraisers, public appearance and speeches by politicians and well-known personalities of the day, including Winston Churchill, and various concerts and performances by popular entertainers. It was also home to a variety of different sports besides hockey. There was also professional wrestling, soccer, lacrosse, and basketball. The Raptors played here when their new home at the Sky Dome was unavailable. Finally, I should mention that Maple Leaf Gardens was also one of the few venues outside of the United States where Elvis Presley performed in concert in the late 1950s. What is the importance of sports in relation to the city? One has only to look at the location of these great arenas and stadia to understand their literal centrality within urban culture. We can date the history of such structures back to ancient Greece and the earliest Olympic Games, where spectators came to watch athletes of near mythological strength compete against one another. This tradition then migrated from Greece to the Roman Empire with the birth of the circuses and hippodromes, which became the sites of another legendary sport, gladiatorial combat. With the rise of Christianity, the importance of sports was reevaluated. There were bans on chariot races and circuses, and these stadia were then changed into non-sports public facilities. Even the Olympic Games, which were regarded by Christian leaders as a pagan rite, contrary to religious rites, were abolished. Emphasis shifted to the construction of churches, cathedrals, castles, forts, and towers, which became the new centerpieces of medieval towns and cities. And the old arenas became abandoned, or converted into marketplaces, or torn down altogether. It was not until the Renaissance that sports experienced a comeback, due to the revival of foot races and equestrian events. However, these took place in open spaces or squares, not arenas or stadia. However, these were reintroduced in the second half of the 19th century with the establishment of the first sports clubs and federations for football and rugby. Importantly, these clubs and stadia were built in cities with rapidly growing populations as a result of urbanization and industrialization, to accommodate the increasing number of fans living and working in the city centers. During the same period, after a long hiatus, the Olympic Games were revived, symbolically marking the importance of sports in the modern age and the beginning of a new period in stadium construction. Generally, these 19th century stadia were not particularly well designed. Their main purpose was to house as many live spectators as possible in an age before television. Thus, they had no architectural value and very basic facilities, nor were they very comfortable. Not all had proper seating or even roofs to shelter the spectators from the sun or inclement weather. As the fan base expanded, sloppy extensions were hastily added. In the 1950s, stadium facilities faced growing competition from the new medium of television, which had become widely available to the public and which frequently broadcast important sports events. Understandably, increasing numbers of spectators preferred to watch the games at home in their living rooms, which were far more comfortable and welcoming, and where the view was much better. To solve this problem, the new stadia started to be equipped with more facilities for spectators in order to improve their comfort. The new stadia, built in the 3 following decades, or many of the already existing ones that were renovated, provided themselves with viewing sectors with seats, with roofed stands, and with a higher number of toilet facilities. They also included food and beverage outlets in the stand area. The stadia also were equipped so as to welcome television broadcasting systems as best as possible and to develop their potential. They were also provided with artificial lighting installations to permit nighttime broadcasts. However, the stadium still presented safety problems. Fires in wooden stands, the violence of hooligans, collapses due to overcrowding. So new safety measures were adopted to ensure that all stadiums had to be upgraded and had to be all-seated facilities. As they became more accessible and comfortable, they also became more diversified and homogeneous. So this in turn offered new business opportunities, sponsorship, merchandising, museums, guided tours and restaurants, and the addition of other adjacent recreational and leisure areas. This not only improved the scope and sophistication of the management of these stadia, but also ensured their use by the public, not just for weekend sports, but also other events 7 days a week. These changes gave rise to what is called the commercial or flexible stadium, which can meet many different requirements. For example, with mobile roofs, stands, and playing fields, this new generation of multi-purpose venues can be configured to provide maximum comfort and crowd capacity at whatever event may be taking place, sports or non-sporting. As well, they're open to marketing and communication, with private rooms and press boxes, conference rooms, hospitality areas, lounges for sponsors and corporations, and with the lighting and acoustic technology for enhanced digital television broadcasting, as well as for concert performances. In this way, these venues not only draw users all year round, but also have become important destinations in urban centers, even serving as catalysts for urban development and renewal of downtown neighborhoods. This is particularly important to the economy of the city, which in past decades has lost much of its residential population and tax base to the suburbs, which tend to be deemed as safer places. In order to prevent a loss of spectators like the one that happened at the end of the 1950s due to television, these stadia and arenas have attempted to create unique live one-time experiences for their patrons. In terms of their size, centrality, architecture, the design of their facilities and technological systems, they are now one of the foremost centers of attraction in major cities which can afford them. As such, in the last few years, stadia and arenas have become once again urban icons and major attractions for tourists and local residents alike, as well as new points of reference in the urban environment, part of the whole evolutionary process of the contemporary city, but also evidence of each city's unique culture and identity recognized all over the world. End of part 1.